Hello everybody, it's Debbie from Inkylicious, and today I'm going to be taking you through some more stencil techniques. This is using either the arch window or the arch stencil, and it's creating perspective as though you're looking through the window. It's using only 2 ink pads, black and white, and a white pen, so I hope you can join in with me. There's 2 ways that you can achieve this effect. One is using complete ink, so this is completely flat if everything on here has been stamped and inked. The other way is to actually use the stencil and cut the aperture, so you can still do all your inking, the same process up to a point, and then you'll go over with your aperture that you've cut using a craft knife, and then you can carry on doing your outer stenciling. So I'm going to show you both techniques, and I'm going to use the arch window. I'm working on a magnetic board, which is to help hold the stencil and the mask down. I've also got some Inkylicious stamping card. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to centre the stencil on the card, which is quite easy with these because you can just see the edges on them. And I'm just going to take it down because I don't want it too high to the top. So about there's fine for me. So I will put the mask back in the centre, and then I'll just use the magnets to help hold it down. And then we'll remove the stencil away. The next part is to trace the outline of the stencil. So you can use any of your art pens for these. And the reason I say not to do it in pencil is because sometimes it can actually show through your stamping. So when you come to your corners, just go a little bit slower. And this is the same process for both types of cards. So if you want to do the quicker aperture style, where we actually cut the aperture out, you're still going to do this same process. The next part now is we've got to do the perspective side. So all we're going to do is take the mask and slide it up. So we create the windowsill and the side of the window. So you just decide how deep you want the edges or the sill. So that, to me, I'm happy with that. So all we're going to do now is, again, we're going to trace this edge. Square that up. Again, just go careful on your corner. So from this point, we're just going to bring it down. So what that gives us is the outer window. So now all we have to do is just join these 2 corners together. And then that's the aperture. This one's going to be for the inked one. So I'm now going to take you through the process of how we do it if you actually cut the aperture out. This is how to do the second version. And what I've done is taken a piece of black card, I've centered it, and using the stencil centered that on the card. I've drawn, just using a white pencil, just the inside of it. The reason I've drawn the inside, if we put the mask in and draw the outside, it would end up bigger. And we don't want that. We want it to cover up the edges that we're going to be inking and stamping. So after you've drawn your aperture, all you're going to do is, using a craft knife, is cut it out. So there's where my centre line was, and that you can use for something else, or you could make a hinged window. Now we need to transfer this onto our card. So again, I'm just using a piece of A5 stamping card, And this if you don't get this exact, it doesn't matter, because this will be trimmed so you can mat and layer it up. I'm taking my aperture and I'm just going to pop it in the middle here. So I just need this there, and again a couple of magnets to hold it down, and then I can remove the black card, and that's where now I will trace the pattern for this. So I'll just grab my pen again. So we've got two versions here, although they are the same to a point. This one now will fit this one because this is for the aperture, and then the other version is what we're going to ink up. So we'll start off first of all with the fully inked one, and I'll see you in a minute. I'm just going to be using black and white ink pads on this card. So for doing the background inking, I've got Memento Tuxedo Black and the Brilliance Moonlight White. I would normally use my large versions, but they're somewhere hidden in here and I can't for the life of me find them. For the actual image stamping, you can either use the VersaFine Onyx Black or the VersaFine Clair. They're both really lovely deep inks and they'll stand up against the background. I've got a blending brush, so you can use whatever blending tool that you like, and I've also got a stencil brush for blending. So let's get ready and we'll move these out and get going. I have some circles from some of our moon stencils, and so what we're going to do first is we're going to start to bring some shading in from the sides, and I've got my black Memento and a blending brush. Now the thing with this is you don't have to be fabulous at this. It honestly won't matter too much because we're going to keep some areas light and some areas dark. So all I'm doing is just bringing this in from the edge. And when I get to near where my moon is, I'm just going to circular motion around it, just so as we get more of what looks like a natural moon glow. And then I'm just going to start bringing some more in and really darkening up some of the edges. If you don't want to get too much on your sill, just bring your mask back in. Then while you darken this edge up, you're protecting the lower edge. And don't ever think that you're going too dark on some of this, because the black pigment ink that we're stamping with, the VersaFine, is a lot darker than the black Memento. So you'll get these lovely shades coming through. Right, so that'll do for the outside edge for now. Just make sure I've got a bit round the moon so it stands out. And then what I'm going to do now is concentrate. Don't worry about all this over inking because that will blend in afterwards. I'm going to go back to this part. Let's move this off. So you can see we've already got the moon there. I'm just going to cover this up because I don't want to ink over the moon, but I just want to start bringing some shading in on this edge. Let's just pop that down, give me a hand free. So all I'm doing is just taking it across as though the glow of the moon is just hitting the edge of the brickwork. And same again. I'm just going to bring it in at the bottom here. Like I say, don't worry too much about all this because we're going to ink over this soon. I'm just going to make sure this bottom edges. So anywhere that you think a shadow might be, let's just have a quick look and see where we are. Right, I'm just going to darken this edge off a bit more. Let's turn it round and we can get to it a bit better. So again, let's just keep this in place. And then we can get on and do some stamping after we do this part. Right, so that's the one that we're going to ink up. So you can see we've got the part of a moon, and just to enhance that a bit more and just soften it out, I'm just going to use the smallest amount of white, and this will blend in with the memento, so it'll just give us this lovely soft haze. Okay, so that's your first one. The second one we're going to do basically the same. So that's basically your 2 cards ready for stamping. So we'll get the stamps ready. I'll be back in a jiffy. The stamps I'm going to be using on this card is the Delicate Vines and the Curious Cats. But you could do this technique with so many different stamps. We've got mini branches, we've got cats on a branch, which are all separate stamps. This hummingbird garden, tumbling vines, oriental blossom. So any of the foliage style stamps will work perfect with this technique. So all I'm going to do first of all, now this one is going to be the inked background. So I've got a stencil that I always keep with my, a mask that I always keep with my stencils that I've already cut out and I've used before. So all I'm going to do is just line that up with this. The reason being is that VersaFine is a lot darker than Memento. So if we overstamp on this one, when it comes to inking the background, the leaves would still show through. So again, I'm just going to hold the stencil down. And this is just purely now so I can ink through and not get it on the background. The Delicate Vines is a multi-way stamp, so you can ink it up and rotate it in all different directions. So you've got to bear in mind, I'm going to put a cat here, so I don't want to go too far across there. What I'll do first of all is do some darker ones, and then we'll do some second generation and stamp them more in the background, so as it just gives some depth and a bit of perspective to the stamping. And in between, what I'll do is just use the stamp cleaning mat and just give the stamp a quick clean so it doesn't get too built up with ink. And that's just my own spray that I make, just a bit of mild washing up liquid and water. So you can see it clears out all the ink from the bottom of the stamp. Just move that out and we'll go. And there we go. Now what I'll do is I'll do some second generation stamping, just so we can put some depth into this. So all we're going to do is just ink up, not put my finger in the ink, and then we'll just stamp off. And then we get paler. So we'll do the same with this part. It just gives us a nice bit of perspective to the stamping. So let's get rid of that a minute. So I'm happy with that one now. Now the other one that we're going to do, which is the aperture one, this one, because we're going to cover it up, this one doesn't matter. We can just stamp straight over all of this because it is going to be covered. So again, I'll just do some of the darker. So I can even bring some in and trailing over this way a bit, but don't go on your wall because these are all supposed to be outside. Just rotate the stamp, get some different vines. Rotate the stamp again, which I've gone over that and I shouldn't have. Let me just put a piece of paper over there. I will take that out and I'll show you how. Right, now we'll do some second generation. So again, we'll just stamp off. We'll just pop some here in the background. And we'll do the same up here. We'll pop some in the background up there. So now when we come to put the aperture over the front, that will cover all that up and just leave us with that bit in there. So I'm just going to, using, I don't know if anybody's ever seen these are just little makeup brushes that you get. Sometimes I use them if you've stamped something and you've missed a bit out. I just go into the ink and just fill it in. But they come in a pack of 50 odd and they're only a couple of pounds, so I always use them for things. So all I'm going to do is just use a bit of my white pen, just blend it in with that, and then I'll just blend that out. I'll try this pen. Get rid of that bit. I'll try some white ink. So that'll do for me. I'm happy with that. Right, we're going to stamp the card, and for that I'm going to use the stamp press. So I'll just pull it out and then I'll be back in a minute. Right, so I've got my stamp press and I've held the card down with the magnets. This is the one that's going to be for the apertures. I've got the Curious Cat, so I'm going to use the one sitting. The other one you could use, if you actually did it the opposite way with the aperture, then you could actually sit this one looking up at, say, a spider or something on the wall, a butterfly. So I'm just going to position this where I want him sat. I always say him because my cat Toby is a Tom. And we'll just pick the stamp up. And all I'm going to do is just, sorry if it goes off a little bit off the screen here. Let's move things. And just pop that down and just let the ink sink into the card. Now, like I said, it's two. If you haven't inked up fully, then at least with a stamp press you can re-ink and go back over it again. Or the other way is you can use these little brushes and just pick some ink up and go in and just touch it up. And that way then it doesn't make a difference in colour because you're using exactly the same ink. Right, so there I've got a few bits because I've got some bits stuck on my stamp. So I can either go in, I could either just pick up some ink here and just go in and just touch it up, or you can go back in fully and re-ink your stamp and then just stamp it again. Okay, and then you get this lovely black outline or silhouette. So that's the first one, and while I've got this out I might as well do the other one. So again, this is the one that we're going to ink up. So I'll just line that one up, get my magnets on. Now I'm just going to quickly clean this stamp because I need to position it. So this is just microfiber cloth that I always just keep a couple sort of handy because this is what I use for just cleaning things up as I go along. So what I'll do is just line it where I want it. Pick the stamp up and then we'll ink up again. So again, there's some little bits there, but I want this bit just a bit darker down there anyhow, so I'm just going to ink up again. There we go. And this is what I mean, sometimes your lines can show through. So what you need to do is just pick up a bit of ink from your ink pad and then just blend that out. Right, so we'll clean that and then we'll come on to doing the background on this one. So this one, what we're going to do is we're going to ink up the whole background. So we want the mask to cover up obviously what we've already done. So I'm going to pop that on, line it up, and then again with the magnets I'm just going to hold it down. And I really do not want this to move, so I'm going to make sure it's held down firmly. I've only got my small memento, as I've already mentioned. If you have a large memento, brilliant. If you have the re-inkers for the memento, which you can find on our website, you can either put some liquid down and use that instead of using all the ink from your ink pad. It's just totally your choice which you want to use. So all we're going to do here now, I'm just going to pick a bit up and get it all over my hands as per usual. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cover the background. I do like doing it this way because you get a bit of a variance in the actual colouring, so it does look a bit more like old stone. And we are going to go over with the brick stencils, and because you get sort of more of a random colouring on it. And also, if you don't have any black card, then obviously this is how you make a nice black background. So I'm not going to let you sit there and watch me do all of this. I'm just going to fast forward this bit. I'm just going to get the background done and then you can join me afterwards. So we have the two cards here. This is the aperture one. So obviously this will get stuck onto here and then cover that up. This is the one that obviously we've inked the background, which I like because it's a bit blotchy, it's a bit more random to it. So when we come over with the brick stencils, then obviously we can make use of that. Even though the card is black, we can still stencil with black over black and it will still show through. So we're going to do the brick stenciling next. I'll just get my bits together. Right, so I've got my brick stencil and I'll do the inked one first, and all I'm going to do is just tap a little bit of white. Now you only need a very small amount, goes a long way with this. If you stipple it, then you get a lovely texture, but to get a nice sort of brick effect is just brush across, and it just gives you a bit more random to your brickwork. So we've got that, it gives you texture to it, and I'll just pop a little bit down here somewhere. And then for the black, I'll just go back to the Memento. I'll just use the brush again for this. Now you wouldn't think black on black will stand out, but it does. So I'll just try and line my brickwork up so it does look a bit more. I don't know if you can see this, but you see on there the black actually does stand out. So we'll do some more just up in the top corner. Yeah, let's just try and line these up a little bit. And again, you can actually just see the black on the black. So we'll do the one for the aperture. So again, I'm just not even going to put any more on my brush, I'm just going to and we'll pop some down here. And again, we can still do, this is the black Memento, not the VersaFine. You wouldn't think it would show up, but it does. Okay, so I'll just show you. So there's the black on the black, the white on the black. So it just gives us just a nice bit of texture. We'll put some more up here. And once this is done, we'll assemble the card. So there you go. So we've got the black. I'm hoping it's showing up on here, because there you go, now you can see it. Right, I'll clear all this up, we'll bring all the things in and the backing cards, and we'll put them all together. Just before we do go further, I've just realised there's a couple of little bits that I haven't put on. This is the Jelly Roll, this is the fine, this is the 05. And what I generally do is just to give things just a very fine outline, just to make them pop a little bit. So you can just go around, just define the edge. And also if you want to put some stars in the sky. The other thing you can do is just to slightly, or if you have the pastel pencil, is just to, as though the moon was just shining on his head, is just smudge it out slightly. We'll just put some here, and we'll just, and it's just purely to give the effect as though it was shining off this fur. Right, I'm going to stick them together now. So these are my two cards at the moment. This is the one that obviously is going to have the aperture over it. This is the fully inked up one. So all I'm going to do with this, just with my big tape gun, is I'm just going to go around this aperture. And obviously if you've got double-sided, or you could do it with glue, whichever you prefer. Just me for speed, I like this thing. I'll go along the edges because I'm going to stick this to the base card. Get it off. Just take it across there. Right, that should stick pretty well. Now the way I do this is I line up my two bottom corners first. And don't worry if it's not square, mine isn't square. I'm going to trim this down so as it fits on a card. Right. So now we've got two cards. So I'll go trim them down, I'll bring the backing card, and then we'll just put the sentiment on and we're done. So I've got my two card bases. I'll layer them up two different ways. This one I'll just use my big tape gun, and obviously you can see where I always practice things. Never waste anything, you can always use two sides. You always go across the middle just to keep it held down. Okay, and the other way that you can mat them is the angel wings, where you just fold back two corners and that keeps it raised up off your backing card. So until you're in the right position, which we'll say there, when you're happy with it, just hold it down, pull your tape out, and then it's not going to move. I've also pre-stamped out a couple of sentiments from our sets. This one's from Life's Adventures. The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. And this is from the Cats on a Branch Small, and this is Never Stop Looking Up. So you can arrange them however you want. You could put on some gems or things on them. So I hope you like the demos. These are actually done for a cat charity that I'm looking at helping out. All these cards that obviously we've been doing will go to them as samples. The way that I've done this is using the mask. I just drew the bars in it and then just coloured it in with my micron pen. See you soon.